So I'm Charlie Taylor. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of California, San Diego, where I direct the Positive Emotion and Anxiety Research Laboratory. So my research focuses on developing new treatments and improving treatment outcomes for anxiety and depression. And my lab is particularly interested in studying treatments that can improve social functioning and well-being, in addition to reducing symptoms of anxiety and depression. And so we conduct experiments and studies that are focused on trying to understand what factors produce negative emotions and what factors prevent people from experiencing positive emotions. And we use what we find in those studies to develop hypotheses about what factors we should target in treatment and how that can improve social functioning and well-being. So I wish that people knew why we did what we do. So the purpose behind our work is to discover and give people tools to improve mental wellness. There are a lot of very effective treatment options for anxiety and depression. That's one of the reasons I got into the field. There was a lot of reason for optimism and hope. But the reality is that those treatments don't help everybody. So I'd say only about 50% of people with an anxiety or depressive disorder display response to our best available treatments. And those treatments might help people in some domains of their life, but not other domains of their life. And so our work is devoted to trying to help the other 50% of those individuals out, to try to understand why those individuals aren't responding, and to try to develop new methods to help improve response. One of the ways we do that is we try to understand where our current theories and approaches may be incomplete. And so what we do is we often step outside of clinical psychology and psychiatry, and we look in other areas of psychology, for instance, social psychology or neuroscience. And in particular, our interest in social functioning has led us to try to understand how is it that social relationships develop under optimal circumstances. And what we learned from social psychology and these other domains is that positive emotions and other positive experiences play a really important role in helping us develop satisfying and meaningful connections with others. And the reason that was striking to us is that most of our current treatments for anxiety and depression they don't explicitly target positivity or positive experiences. And so what our work is intended to do is to see if there's some potential added benefit to targeting positive emotions, positive thinking, and behaviors in the service of improving social connections. Research offers a systematic way to produce new learning. So if a research study is well designed and it seeks to address an important question, it provides a win-win scenario that after that research study is completed, we know something that we didn't know before the study. And I think what's important for people to know, and I know this is something, I work with my students who often hope that their hypotheses and what they expect to happen will turn out. And oftentimes that doesn't happen, and people may feel disappointed in that. And I look at that as being a huge win as well, because whatever the outcome, we've learned something new. We're in a better place than where we were before. And I'm really passionate about using research to address that 50% I mentioned earlier, right? To help individuals for whom our current treatments maybe are missing the mark or not doing a sufficient enough job. They may be helping them in some domains, but not others. And so what happens is over time, that research, that new knowledge that's gained from research can accumulate, it can grow, and it becomes more precise. And if it's intended to improve understanding and improve health and well-being, I think that's a really big, important aspect of why research is so important. Like I said, so the reason I got into the field, and specifically with anxiety and depression, these are two very, very common psychiatric conditions. And I was really excited because we have some treatments that can really help a lot of people, both psychological treatments and medications. But when you look at the research evidence, that these treatments are helping about 50% of people, which means that there are a large number of people who our treatments aren't helping. And that, to me, provided a really big opportunity to fill a gap, to try to understand how can we do better for those individuals? How can we use research to learn and to understand why those individuals aren't responding, right? If we understand why individuals aren't responding, then can we learn what are some things we could do differently? And if we have hypotheses about what we can do differently, we can use research to test those things out. So for instance, we've been testing out, is there potential value in helping people with anxiety and depression improve positive emotions and improve positive thinking? Does that help them develop connections with others? Does that help reduce their symptoms of anxiety and depression? So I think this is I get really excited because research provides a way to move the field forward and to try to advance our understanding as the collective whole, as we're all working on these questions together. ResearchMatch has been, I would say, a real gift to the scientific community. One of the most difficult aspects of conducting a research study is finding research volunteers to take part in that study. Often I think people think that coming up with the research question, developing all the parameters are very challenging, and they are. But once those are set in place, one of the biggest challenges is finding people who are appropriate matches and who want to contribute and take part in the research. And ResearchMatch helps solve that problem. It provides what I would say is a very smooth and straightforward way to connect researchers and research studies with volunteers in the community, people who may be interested in contributing to the research or learning something about themselves through research, or just what the research process is like. And so the way that we use ResearchMatch is we develop a brief description of what our study is about. And this brief description is approved by our local ethics committee. And we provide that description to ResearchMatch. And what ResearchMatch does is it presents that description to research volunteers who have signed up with ResearchMatch and who said they're interested in learning more about studies that might be a good fit for them. And what we do is we identify specific characteristics of people who may be a good fit for our study. They may meet our eligibility criteria. For example, we study adults with anxiety or depression. So we may set age parameters around the type of person we're looking for, or people that need to live in the greater San Diego community because they need to visit us to complete some aspects of the study. And once those people are identified within the ResearchMatch system, they're sent our brief study description. And they can read it and they can learn about it. And if they want to learn more about the study, they can say, yes, please tell me more. And at that point, one of my staff will connect with them. We'll tell them more about the study. We'll answer the questions they have. If they're interested in moving forward, they can conduct a brief eligibility screening to let them know if it's likely that they're going to be eligible for the study. And then they can proceed from there. And if people read the brief description after seeing it through ResearchMatch and they're not interested, or it's just not a good time for them, then they can click no, they're not interested. And so I think it's a very elegant way to connect researchers and the research volunteer community. And I know that our work has immensely benefited from the ResearchMatch platform. Well, one thing I find relevant and I think is important for research volunteers to know a little bit about. One of the things that we often hear from people who take part in the research. So typically when people reach out to us and they sign up to volunteer, I think they often think about they want to contribute to the research. They want to help, advance understanding of anxiety or depression in this case, or to, help us understand a potential new treatment option that may be helpful for people like them. And I think what a lot of research volunteers tell us at the end of the study is, although that was part of it and they felt good about their contribution, but they also learned a lot about themselves. So when you take part in a research study, often You're asked to reflect on things, to answer questions about yourself or aspects of your life that maybe you haven't thought about a lot about or you haven't reflected on. You complete different types of tasks or interviews, and sometimes you get feedback about those interviews. In our work, we're doing a clinical trial, and you take part and you receive a treatment. You work with a clinician, and part of that is you're learning new skills and you learn something about yourself. So I think one of the things, in addition to research volunteers contributing to the research, research I've heard can help research volunteers learn something about themselves as well. And I think a lot of people tell us that that's also a valuable part of the experience.